So this is the tricky part. This is doing the A and B belts. So the manual says you need to run the first belt first and then take it out so you can measure exactly to the tooth for this and cut the second belt the same length. So I've got my belt here. Yep. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to basically pull out a bit of belt so that we've got a bit of room to work with. Make sure you don't get any twists in it. And so what we need to do is, so we'll start with the A belt. So the A belt is basically going to come across here, this way, and it's on the top. This one's on the top, so it's going to be mounted to the top of the tap system, or to your Voron white X carriage. So let me just consult with the manual just briefly. We'll see. Should give us a couple of clues here. Okay, it looks like maybe I've got this in the wrong way, so let's just have a look. Just one sec. So it says to install the X carriage first, but we're putting in the tap system. I'm putting the CNC one on. So I haven't actually got that mounted yet. So I'll do that a bit later, but at least we'll have an idea of where the teeth are going to come to. So this is a 6mm belt, and it's basically telling me that the teeth of the belt teeth face away from extrusion. So that means that these teeth here are facing back towards you. So away from the extrusion itself. That's the extrusion there. So we're just basically going to come across. I'll throw this over the top. Oh, come on, don't be like that. And I'm going to basically get a bit of slack on the thing here. So it's actually probably easier to run it the other way, this way. It's got to come back to there anyway. So I'll start here, come across through the top. So I've got multiple little pairs of pliers here to help me guide the, and these are good because they grip onto it. So it's really quite cool. So then it's got to come through. There's a hole in the back of the, which you probably can't see. There's two holes in the back of here. So I'm going to have to come through the one closest to the center. Not sure if you'll be able to see it. You can just see it there. There. So I'm basically going to be pulling this through. Check again to make sure you haven't got. So I'm going to come through this hole here, the one on the inside, come around the back of the it's quite tricky because you can't actually see the piece. So I'm going to basically try and push it around. Okay, I'll see if I can have a play with that. Okay, that took a bit of mucking around to get that in there. So basically I've forced it down the outside of that belt. So the outside of this belt, otherwise the belt will rub on this belt. push that belt in, get it to the outside of there's an idler through here, and then you've got to bring it round, and you probably can't see that at all, but you'll see a little wee gap in through here. You can just see the brownness of the belt. I've got a screwdriver and just got it round, managed to push it round, and got a screwdriver to flick it just inside the rail, and it actually goes inside the guide of the, well, I think it does. It seems to come all the way down through here. Not sure if this is right or not. Yep, I think so. I think it sits in between the two. And it comes along, and it comes up to the back of this part here. And I'm just going to see where that goes through. So it goes, I'll see how it actually connects through there. So it stays on the top and it comes round. And it comes around here. I'll see. I think it comes through the inside. Oh yeah, there's a groove there that it goes through, and then it comes out, and then loops on the inside of this top motor idler. So it comes around the outside of the idler, so it comes down through here, comes through, oops, comes through at the top again, comes around the outside of the idler, of this top idler here. So I'll try and feed that through. I'm not sure if you can see that. Should be able to. So again, check to make sure you've got no twists in it. Bring it around at the top part of this gap here between the two, and it comes around the outside of this roller and then feeds back in through the inside and comes out across the top through here, and then feeds back around. I'll put a little bend in this so that it comes back around here and out towards here. So we're just gonna put a little bit of a bend in it to try and help it guide it around and follow the guide. You might need a little screwdriver to guide you. Like that. And then that feeds back out through here. It's all engaged correctly. Yep, looks like it is. And then that comes all the way along here to the top of this one, and I think it just goes to the outside. Looks like it does, because there's nothing else there. And then that goes, I don't know if you can see that, you should be able to actually. And then I'm going to feed that through the top rail, and that goes straight through along the top still. just pick it back up onto the pulley. Okay, now we'll bring it around so you can see this side. It's come off over here. It's just come off a fraction. Come on, get in there. Okay, put that back on. So now we've just got to pull it through here, because we've fed it through this side now. I know we're all over the place. So we're at the very top here, and we come down through here. Come back through the top of this here. Not sure if you can see that. Come back through the top here. And then I'm going to feed it back through the top. Put a little kink in it to feed it through. So it comes out the top still. And it's sitting on the back of this idler here. Sitting on the back of this idler. Check the other ones are all this one's dropped to the second one down, so that's got to come back up. That one's fine. And then that comes back to here. Back to here. Okay, so we've got to now have a look at our tap and see, put that roughly in the centre. And now we're with our tap bolted on. How does that bolt on? I think it's got two at the back there. Two there. So that's where the tap bolt's on, right there. So if we've got this here, I'll pull this back a bit. Get there like that. I will bolt this on, and that way you can get an accurate measurement back to here. So I'm not far out actually, and then I'll pull that tight and I'll clamp it in so I know it's the right length, and then I will pull it all out and then measure that against the second belt. So it's a little bit of a rigmarole. Welcome back. Okay, we're just going to be working on the Chaotic Lab CNC Voron tap. So the first thing we need to do is remove the belt retainers on the left and right hand side here. So just undo those screw there with a little silver stainless steel plate. Carefully, and same with the other side. So what I found that these are almost impossible to get the belts on with the tap in place. So I had to remove all of this, and I found it easy to feed the belts in from the rear side. So this is after you've lubricated the slider. And the other thing that you need to do, these have got two pre-installed nuts and screws. And you just undo the nut off the back, and these screws won't come out very easily. I'm not sure if you can take them out or not, but they're pre-installed, so you don't have to pull the thing apart to get them in. So they're bolts they're the two screws for the bottom carrier bolts. So, and you'd need to do them up maybe a couple of turns each at a time when you move from one to the other, otherwise you can't do them up. They jam, one of them jams up, and it does tell you that in the instructions, by the way. Okay, so we'll just try and zoom out a little bit here, hopefully. So the A belt goes at the top, so the top is the part where the white plug is, and obviously the writing on the chaotic labs is to the bottom. So yeah, that's how the A belt comes in from the left hand side, and this is basically just to set up the first belt so you can get that set and working, so you can then cut it to measure the second belt against it so they're exactly the same length. So it's just really an exercise to get that in place. So just kink that down and flick that up, and then you can just give it a little bit. I actually don't think I gave it quite enough extra belt, so maybe I would add another 10mm onto what I've left out there, so, and you can always trim that bit off, but I found it quite a little bit challenging to, later on you'll see, to get that second the other side done up at the same time. so now we're just going to mount this to the main carriage of the X carriage. And we'll just move that little tap up a fraction to line it up with the screw, and then bring it backwards and lines up with the left hand bottom corner. Just set it up so that you can see it, and then just angle it up to it, just like I'm doing there, and then try and get it started. Only wind it in a couple of turns and then move on to the other one. So I've probably done that up a little bit too far maybe. Yeah, I think I've actually done that left screw a little bit too far. But it's good being able to rotate the frame on the Lazy Susie. It just makes it so much easier to work with. You can turn it 360 degrees without actually having to move yourself. Okay, yes it was. So yeah, I basically had wound that left hand screw in a little bit too far, so if you find that you can't get to the second screw, screw the first screw out a little bit, maybe a turn and a half, and that'll free the carriage up so that you can then get to the second screw properly. So we're just holding that belt in so that we can get a measurement for the second belt. While we're discussing things, at the front there by my hand, the two red and black idler assemblies for the A and B belts, that by absolute far was the hardest part of threading these belts. It was really tricky getting that in, and I think the B belt on once I actually reinstalled the belts again, it took me 20 minutes, like just for that one little piece. It was just very time consuming and patience required. So don't start throwing stuff around if you can't get it the first. It took me at least 6 or 7 goes to get it. Yeah, so the A is a top belt, and the top belt actually doesn't go through the roller, it actually goes, so I'm just trying to feed it up around the back of that so it goes up the top. And I'm trying to feed it up over the top and get it round so that it can then come through to the back. that should give you a lot of belt. You've got to pull a lot of belt through because you've got obviously both belts the first round. So if, you just have a little bit of you do have some challenges trying to get the belts through. It's not the easiest of jobs, but you just got to be patient with it. And the biggest thing is don't rush it. Second thing is make sure you're not putting a twist in it, a half twist in it. Otherwise you'll get all the way, you'll pull the belt all the way through and you'll find that it's got a half twist and you've got to pull it all back. I didn't actually do that in this particular case. I didn't have that issue, but just something to be aware of. So yeah, so that little piece is kinked there, which I'm going to fix right now. It's actually not quite locked in place properly in the tap, so I end up just giving it a bit of a tweak up and it actually locks into place. So there it goes. So that was yeah, give it a little bit of a tighten. So this part here just feeds down that hole where I put my finger there. Again, pull your belt through carefully without putting a twist in it. And what I've got to do here is just feed it round the top, through that slot, but straight through the back, and it sits on the outside top roller. It doesn't actually go in through that drive itself, because that's the B drive there, and we're running the A belt. So the A belt goes through the drive of the step motor on the other side, which we'll get to. So it just goes straight through, comes out the back. Hopefully I'll rotate this round for a view for you in a moment. You just got to keep going back and checking to make sure that it's sitting in the right idlers. It's all sitting up on the top half of the A belt, and then when the B comes around, you've got to make sure it's all sitting in the bottom part. Otherwise you'll get a twist in it. And definitely make sure you've got all that sitting right before you cut the belt. So yeah, it's a bit tricky. Sometimes you've got to put little kinks in the belt to try and get it fed through, because it's got some tight little spots there. Eventually I'll get it through there. Great little tool, those spring-loaded tweezers, I call them. I've got 3 of them. There's different angles. The one's 60 degree, one's 60, one's 30, and one's straight. Oh, sorry, one's 80 degrees and one's 30 degrees and one's straight. So yeah, I'm just pulling all this, taking the tension up through the belt there. I haven't got any twists in it. And it sits up on the top idler on the outside, so I should hopefully bring it around for a bit of a look so that you guys can see that. Here we go. Yeah, so it sits up the very top at the back there. There's an idler at the very top that doesn't go through that set of drivers there, because that's the B driver. And it comes along the top again, and then it goes through this. It goes through this one here, so it comes around the back of the bottom, that outside roller first, the closest roller to my right hand there, and then it feeds up through the hole into where the drive is. Look how long that belt is. I just about throw a fishing line. Yes, so that feeds through on the outside, yeah that's it, so on the outside of the roller but on the right hand side of the drive pulley, and that should feed out through the back and then come back through again and come on the left hand side of that roller drive motor, and then to the top idler on the outside corner. They're a little bit fiddly to get these in place, but it's a good challenge, not for the faint-hearted. This part here is the hardest part. Trying to get that through that idler is just a mission. I probably paused that and started again, so that's got to feed across and then it's back over to the GANTRY drive, the CNC tap there. So I'm just going to measure that off by hand, just pull it up a little bit closer and pull a bit of tension on it, measure about halfway across the chaotic lab and then cut it off. Just pull up the tension if you can, so try and pull the GANTRY back towards the actual A and B drive frame itself. Hold the tension on the tap and then pull it about 3/4 of the way over. Yeah, see, they're about halfway, so I would have gone a little bit further, maybe to that second nut on the left there, but that was enough. But yeah, just another 10mm would have been good, I think, in hindsight. Since I haven't done this before, it was a bit of a learning experience trying to figure out what we needed to do there. So now we've got to pull the belt out again, feed it all back out, and then measure and cut the second belt to the exact same size as the first belt. So I'm just pulling the belt out quickly. I'm just undoing the belt retainer, pulling the belt off, and now measuring them and cutting it, and that's both the belts measured. So now I've got to pull the tap off again, and these belts have to be fed in from the back because you just can't seem to get the belts in from the front. So we'll zoom in a bit and probably lose a bit of quality there with the zoomed up like that, especially in this lighting. But yeah, there's just really no way to get the belt to feed through while it was installed, so I found it easier to pull it out like this. So the A belt goes to the top, closest to my thumb there, that's right there, yep, that's the one. And feed it through from the back and try and push it through there, yeah, just like that. And then same with the B belt. Remember, the serrated teeth go to the front towards you, so the flat side is against the extrusion on the X axis. Then put your retainer on, your belt retainer on there. Just get it started anyway. And then we'll just adjust the belts in a moment just to get them even, so that they are even. Just checking to make sure that they're both adjusted to the same tooth. Excellent. Tighten it up. So we're going to temporarily mount the tap onto the x-axis rail, just so that it's stable and we've got something to work with. Again, this idler is the hardest part by far. I think I have trouble on this is the A drive here on the top, so now I'm now doing the B drive, and this part here I have the most trouble with in the whole build, trying to feed that one into that B drive. So it's very, very difficult. So this is yeah. See, my belts are a little bit too short. I do get them in. But if they had been another 10mm longer, it would have been great. So now I'm just pulling them up a little bit to get the tension right and get them both the same. Now I'm bolting the tap back on onto the carriage. And the two top screws. And so now I'm looking at the tensioning, and while we're on the subject of tensioning, these tensions, I've screwed them right back so those red pieces there are pushed all the way forwards. So make sure you start from that position first before you start adjusting them. They should be set to 0 basically, which it does tell you that in the manual on the assembly part, which I'll go into in that part of the build. So I'm just tensioning it up now, and I'm just listening and feeling the tension, just listening to the tone, being a bit of a muso,
Got a pretty good ear for music, so I can kind of hear the tone, but not everybody will be able to do that. So I've got an app that I use. It's just a bass guitar app that I downloaded just randomly, and that gives you the hertz. So I'm just basically mucking around with the tension until it feels about right with 1, and then I'm going to check the I'll try and tune it by ear first, and then use this tuner to get the tune. Actually, in a couple of little bit, I'll rest that against the CNC tap, so that it's easier to work with. But it's just a matter of matching up. I think with that part on the A and B drives, I think I ended up settling on, I think it was 118 to 120 hertz. That one's a lot lower. And on the Z drive belts, I ended up settling on 48 to 50 hertz. Might be megahertz, I'm not sure. Can't remember. But it was 48 to 50, and this one here is sitting around because it's a longer. It's a much longer belt. But it may or may not be correct. It just feels about right for me. I've done a lot of mechanical work over the years, and worked with a lot of timing belts and a lot of drive belts, multi-tooth drive belts like this on motorcycles, etc. So it just feels about right. And the longer the belt, the more you will get a little bit more flex. But also, as you can see, I've got the gantry pushed all the way to the back, so that we've got the same position for both sides, so you get the same length for the tune, if that makes sense. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's around 118. It was fluctuating about 2 hertz, which is pretty good. So I thought that was a reasonably good idea to. I actually had a look at the Prusa, because the Prusa's got a tuning system as well that they use, and I had a look at that, and that's what kind of gave me the idea to just, why don't I just use my normal guitar tuner? So that, because it actually tells you the hertz, which is what you need to know, especially if you can't hear it. So I guess time will tell whether this was the correct method for me to use, but there's not that much information in the Voron manual on the correct tuning process. So I just used my previous experience with tuning, and basically, because you're trying to get equal tension, so using the vibration of the vibrato of the like a string, you get the resonance of each belt will basically be the same. As long as you've got the same length, you'll be right, which by pulling the gantry all the way to the back, you get the longest length possible. It's the same thing as I did with the Z drive. I wound the motors up and down a little bit until I got them all the way down so that they're all sitting at the same spot to give you the same tune, so the same length, so you can tune it to that same length. So hopefully that makes sense. Any questions, just drop them in the description down the bottom in your comments, and please like and subscribe. I hope you've enjoyed this series so far. Thanks for all your support, and I think we're just about ready, so that's looking pretty good. Cheers, Westy, over and out.